Jacob was a handsome man of 36, tall and slender with dark hair and a smile, when he dared share it, that could bring light to a room. Clara's Matthew had only been a few years older than Jacob was now when he'd passed suddenly. She and Jacob had tried running the farm alone after that, but there was too much work, not enough time, and with economic bad times, well, they'd found themselves at risk of losing the house and their 60 acres. It had been Jacob, barely into his 20s at the time, who had come up with the idea of selling the candy Clara made for friends on special occasions. Mostly, they made fudge, a recipe Jacob had tinkered with over time. First, they had prepared it in their kitchen in their farmhouse, selling it at farmers' markets and such. In a year's time, they were bringing in more income from the candy than their farm. Then, 5 years ago, they'd taken a chance, sold a portion of their land to the Amish farmer next door, and bought a little house on Main Street in Bluebird. Bluebird was barely a town, more just a crossroad in the midst of thousands of acres of farmland and woodland. But tourists bound for Lancaster passed through it every day. The sales they made in their little store, plus the orders Jacob received from several shops in Lancaster on Englisher holidays, were enough to keep Clara and Jacob comfortable. She and her son had taken a tragedy and made sweets out of lemons. And it was a good life. Her one wish, however, before she died, was to see her son wed, and God willing, with children of his own, grandchildren, to keep Clara in her dotage. The bell on the front door jingled, and Clara reached for the notebook where she was keeping notes on all the job applicants. "Ah, our first interview of the morning." She threw up her hands in excitement, and then pushed through the swinging doors that led from the kitchen into the shop. "We don't need to hire anyone," Jacob shouted after her. Clara let the doors swing shut behind her, hoping her son's voice hadn't carried. "Good morning," she greeted. "You're right on time." 5 minutes early, in fact, she noted. She liked this young lady already. "Rose Bontrager, I'm guessing? I'm Clara." The young woman who was gazing through the glass at the candy counter turned to Clara. "Yeah, Rose, that's me." She smiled a smile that Clara thought might be one of the prettiest, most genuine she'd ever seen. Rose slipped out of her heavy wool cloak. "It's so warm and cozy in here. It feels wonderful. And the smell." She inhaled deeply. "Amazing. It's so nice to meet you, Clara." She tugged on one string of her black bonnet. "My cousin Mary told me you were hiring." "Yeah. Mary Byler, married to John Jr. Byler, right? A nice girl. Junior cuts our meadow when it gets too high." "She thought I might be suited to the job," Rose explained. The two women stood there in the middle of the candy shop, looking at each other for a long moment, sizing each other up, and then Clara made a clicking sound between her teeth. "I suppose we'll see about that, won't we?" Rose gave a nervous laugh, glanced at the floor, and then at Clara again. "I'm sorry. I'm just a little nervous. New to town, and I've never interviewed for a job before." "No need to be nervous. You can hang your cloak and bonnet there," she told Rose, pointing to the pegs on the wall Jacob had added for just that purpose. Clara watched Rose hang her outer garments. Rose was small and slender, but not so slender as to seem weak or sickly. And pretty, very pretty, but not so pretty so as to be at risk for suffering from hochmut. A woman too prideful of her looks could be difficult to live with. Better that she have a sweet disposition, though Jacob did like a pretty face. "Come, sit with me," Clara invited, waving her to a little table Jacob had brought from the barn at home. He'd whitewashed it and added darling little mismatched chairs that he'd painted to match. Above the table, on the wall, Clara had added a pastoral painting of an Amish farmyard surrounded by the rolling hills of Lancaster County, planted in alfalfa hay. The nook was a place for customers.